And joining us for more on tonight's topic is Detective Sergeant Bob Bork of the Longboat Key Police Department and Michael Barfield, Vice President of the American Civil Liberties Union of Florida. And I want to thank you both for being here tonight. And Bob, let me start with you in terms of how this information will be used and not used. What exactly, in the best case scenario, what do you hope happens?
The license plate reader, in the acronym is an LPR, it takes a picture of a vehicle and it takes a picture of a tag, and it has the ability to read that tag, and then it sends that information off to the National and the Florida Crime Information Centers along with the driver's license databases, and checks to see if there's anybody's wanted, if the vehicle's wanted person, the registered owner's wanted, or driver's license.
So theoretically, let's say something comes up that the owner of a vehicle that that popped up onto the system was wanted for a very serious felony. Would you then send out officers to try to find the vehicle, or just be on the lookout for?
If there was somebody wanted for a serious felony, we would send officers out and try to stop the vehicle.
But if it was something like, let's say, someone driving who might not have a license or a suspended license, would you go out looking for that person, or it's just in the system? No,
that data, the system can determine whether that data is given out or not to officers. But if it is given out to officers, then it's usually what we call a BOLO. It's just put out that this vehicle is traveling this direction, and the owner of that vehicle doesn't have a driver's license. It's not a dispatch call. It seems like it would be a good thing that if the local law enforcement is alerted to somebody who may have a serious felony or committed a crime someplace else that may be in the neighborhood, that's something that you would want to know.
Well, there are certainly justifiable uses for this technology. The problem is the aggregation of this data over long periods of time will tell a story about someone's whereabouts and their movements and their patterns, and the person that may be wanted may not necessarily be driving the vehicle. And so, for example, I pulled Sarasota Police Department's data. They kept their data going back 8 years. There were hundreds of thousands of tag hits, and you could take that data from an Excel spreadsheet, plot it on Google Maps, and figure out, I put my own data in and figured out my whereabouts.
What were you doing?
Restaurants that I was frequenting, a bistro that I may be frequenting, or a friend's house, because they drive down the streets. These LPRs are also mounted on mobile units of the police department.
Let me ask you something about what Andrea said in Adam's story, her concern about whether it was a divorce case and one spouse may...
Stalker.
Well, okay, that's another issue, but let's say a divorce case. I mean, how likely is it that this information would be used in civil litigation like that?
Well, I just got out of a federal trial today where automatic license plate reader data is being used in a case. So attorneys are aware that this data is out there. They can issue a subpoena for it and obtain the data and filter through it.
Are they doing so in those communities already using this technology?
Right here in Sarasota and Bradenton, yes.
Right. I know that you can't talk about the administrative ways that this information is being used, but this is not what you're looking at in terms of how it's going to be.
We've never received such a subpoena. I mean, he's talking about a criminal case, and of course we're going to use that information in a criminal case because that's why we have it. But in a civil litigation or somebody trying to track their spouse, as we're talking about here, we've never received any such request, and frankly, I've never seen it.
What is the history in terms of how often is this technology being used in our general area and in our region?
I can really speak best, obviously, for Longboat Key, because that's where I come from. I'm not sure what the other agencies are doing with them, because we aren't sharing all the data back and forth, and it's not, the misconception may be Big Brother's watching you, but it's data that's stored in our police department, and we use it for our information and for investigations. Your personal data never comes out on this information. When your tag comes onto Longboat Key, your vehicle comes onto Longboat Key, it reads your tag. but it doesn't give us any of your information. You know, that's back to the old systems that we've been using for years, the in-car computers and the different systems that we have to then run that tag to get the information.
But someone can take that data. I myself have made a records request of Longboat Key and provided the data and on an Excel spreadsheet and find out whose tag number that is and how frequently they go over the bridge and come back.
So you see that this can be a good thing for communities to have, and it could solve some crime. So you're not objecting to this being used in some form.
Right. I think the data has to be narrowly limited in time as to how long it's kept. You don't need to keep this data more than, say, 30 days, in my opinion.
Is that something that has to be changed in terms of state law, federal law, or
Yes.
local ordinance?
State law has not caught up to technology, and the technology that police departments are using, like Stingray, Longboat Key doesn't, but LPRs, they do invade privacy when you aggregate that data and it's available through the Public Records Act.
You know what I bet people are at home are wondering right now? They've seen all the Jason Bourne movies. And they're wondering if in reality, either that's what we have now or that's what we're moving towards.
The different police departments, we have different systems. We aren't all on the same system. Could the system talk to each other if you had agreements between the police agencies? Yes. Does our system? No. And would our system talk to Anna Maria? That's something for the administrators to decide. But it's not tracking your movements all around the state and through the country, and it's not sending information off to the government on this vehicle's driving here and there.
Longboat Key isn't, but FDOT has ringed I-75 with LPRs. And other agencies do share their data into regional and national databases.
Well, let me, and I posed this to Bob earlier, but let's say theoretically that somebody is wanted in Venice for a very serious felony, and then you get a hit that their license plate was just popped up on Anna Maria Island. Isn't that a good thing?
Yes, there are valid uses for it, but the constraints should be on serious crimes. These things are tagging for even if you let your insurance lapse or your tag is expired, our officers can enter in private hot list and get an alert. If Alan comes on the island, bing, and the officer knows that you're on the island.
Bob, I'll give you the last word because that's not currently how you're using the data.
No, yeah, he's correct with a hot list, but that data is used for suspects in criminal activity and when we want to know if they're coming onto our island.
Okay, and we'll have to leave it there. I want to thank you both for joining us. Fascinating
Thank you.
subject.